Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sikes. My name is Sikes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out last week's episode. If you're one of the people who listened to that conversation, I hope you enjoyed it and thanks so much for coming back. But for those of you out there who are new to the show, welcome. Please feel free to make yourselves at home, and as always, there's beer and soda in the fridge. So, how's it going, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you all had a fun weekend. I had a pretty good weekend. Gray Walker played at the Millville Music Fest. We had a really fun set. Had a blast seeing a lot of bands, seeing a lot of friends, and meeting some new people. If you were there, I hope your experience was similar. Shout outs to everybody on the Millville Music Fest team for putting together a really great event. This is their third year, and they really knocked it out of the park. I think they're doing a really good thing, and yeah, just all the power in the world to them. I want to shout out an event happening this upcoming weekend, May 18th, the Lawrenceville Art Crawl. If you are somebody that was into the Millville Music Fest and want to attend a similar event that's maybe more visual arts focused, but with live music as well, Lawrenceville Art Crawl this Saturday. It is happening. And your boy Sikes right here is hosting the Start the Beat stage at Full Pint Wildside Pub, which is down on the end of Lawrenceville, a little bit past Spirit and all that. We are going to have some live music and live podcasts and all sorts of cool things going on with that. Sikes and a New Violence is headlining the stage. I have Oh, wow, I cannot talk. Brittany Chantel is playing. We got Isaiah Small. We got Abstract Theory. We got BB Guns. We got My Favorite Color. Really cool lineup. Come on down and hang out with us. Again, that is this Saturday, May 18th, Full Pint Wildside Pub for the Start the Beat stage at the Lawrenceville Art Crawl. And that's the only event that I'm going to promo this week. It's a big one. I hope to see some of you there. All right, so let's get into some listener questions. Trish Smith asked me about my thoughts on the season finale of Supernatural and there being one season left. I don't know. I haven't watched Supernatural in a very long time. I liked the show when I did watch it, but I probably haven't watched it in 8 years, so I can't comment much on that, Trish, and I apologize. Maybe I will follow up on some of the seasons that I've missed and then give you an answer in a couple years on that. I have no idea. Sorg asks about a Mortal Kombat 11 review. For those of you that are not in the know of video games, you probably know what Mortal Kombat is, and they just released the 11th game. And well, the official 11th game. There's been way more than 11 games, but Mortal Kombat 11 has just come out, and I recently played that on Twitch with the Cream Team this past weekend, the weekend before this one. We did a stream for a charity, and we were playing Mortal Kombat 11, so I did get to play it, and my review of it, in all honesty, it's just too much, man. Like, it's fun. The mechanics of the game are good. It plays well. It's really violent. It's funny. It's really over the top, but I don't know. It's just not for me. Modern gaming in general, it's just not for me. It's too smooth, you know? Like, I feel like it would be like, I don't know. I like my video games a little clunky. Maybe that's me romanticizing the old. You know, I'm the type of person that still likes to listen to music on vinyl. So that should probably tell you a lot about my gaming experience on modern consoles. I guess I don't like things that are easy. I don't know what that is. But without getting down the rabbit hole of that, Mortal Kombat 11 is fun. The graphics are good. The gameplay's tight. The moves and everything are really over the top. The fatalities are ridiculous. So if you're a Mortal Kombat fan and you still haven't played the game, you're fucking up. You should definitely go check it out. But if you're not a video game fan or a Mortal Kombat fan, it really makes no difference to you that this game exists. And that's my review on Mortal Kombat 11. Moving on, John Knoll asks, do you have any passions that don't deal with art, music, or expression? For example, architecture, or physics? If so, what are they? Uh, I like food a lot. I know that might seem a little silly, but I like food from a behind the curtain standpoint, from a culinary perspective. I think the art of food is interesting, and that's something I've talked about before in the past. You mentioned architecture. I think architecture is really cool. I've been to Falling Water and nerded out a good bit over it, but like even in architecture and in cooking and other things, I tend to find the art in those things that may not be on the surface necessarily artistic or viewed as art. So typically, most things I have an interest in, it's because I can find art in it to some extent. So yeah, I mean, there's food, there's coffee, there's beer. Obviously, people know I'm a big beer guy. There is, I like architecture. I physics, not so much. I never really thought about it. But yeah, there's definitely some interests and passions and things outside of visual arts and music and things like that. But again, most of it is still tied to creativity and the powers of the of human capability. If you apply yourself, yeah, I'm gonna leave my answer there. We got a couple more. I'm just gonna get through all of these since they're kind of backlogged. Corey Bernazzoli. I really don't know how to pronounce your last name, Corey, but you interact with a lot of things I do, and I appreciate it. I'm going to assume your last name is pronounced Bernazzoli, but if it's not, let me know. Anyways, Corey asks, let's go back to TMNT 3, Turtles in Time. Was it really that bad of a movie? Well, Turtles in Time 3, I don't think it's that bad of a movie. Going back to Mortal Kombat, I also think Mortal Kombat Annihilation is totally fine for a movie. I think when it comes to these sort of these comic book video game movies, sometimes people put they invest too much into it and they kind of forget, like these are movies that are being made by big companies to, make some money off of toddlers. That's what a lot of this shit is. And to expect anything more out of that is really, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Don't get me wrong, there have definitely been some movies that have been great. The first Ninja Turtles movie is genuinely a really good piece of cinema. It tells a great story. The cinematography is great. The acting is great. All of the practical effects are phenomenal. They did a really good job with that movie. But I think it was almost like a fluke that they did. I don't think that they set out to make like, oh, this really great movie about the Ninja Turtles that adults and children alike could like and people would praise, 3 decades later. I just think they wanted to make a movie and it happened to be really good. So with something like Ninja Turtles 3, I don't think their intention was any less or any different. They were just trying to make a movie for kids, and that's what so much of this stuff is. So to answer your question, was it that bad of a movie? I mean, from a technical perspective, it's not that bad. But from the perspective of being, a 7-year-old kid going to the movies, watching your favorite fucking turtles dress up as samurai and go back in time, ride on horses, fight with swords. Pretty fucking badass, in my opinion. I loved that movie when I was a kid, and I still love it now. I grew up with it. But if you've never seen it, and you're like in your late 20s or your 30s watching this movie, and then you're going to judge it from the perspective of like your age range now, you're just kind of an idiot and an asshole. The movie's not made for you, it's made for kids. So if you didn't see it as a kid, I can't expect you to like it now as an adult. But that's just my opinion on it. You know what I mean? It's fucking Ninja Turtles. Time traveling to be samurai. What do you want? Fucking Titanic? You know? Whatever. That's my opinion on that. It's fine. Let's move on. Couple more questions. Brenda Leeds. Did you review the Bird Box yet? It's kind of funny. I'm not typically a movie review person, but apparently a lot of people have been asking me about film and television, so maybe that's the market I should get into. Bird Box, I did not review it because I am not a movie reviewer. I did watch it. I thought it was worth watching once. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great, but I enjoyed watching it. It was fine. It was like a meal at Olive Garden, Like it was fine. It was fine. That's my review of Bird Box. Cinematic Olive Garden. And last question. Actually, it's not even a question. Heather Taylor asks, "Why does your butt stink?" Um, because I am human and I poop out of it, and it's just gonna stink. It's where poop comes from. That's my answer. And moving on, you gotta eat this. As I mentioned before, this weekend was the Millville Music Festival, and I had made a post about this on Instagram. Maybe some of you caught it, but if you didn't, I was telling everybody that my number one food truck recommendation for the Millville Music Fest was the Blue Sparrow food truck. And if you are not somebody who has had Blue Sparrow, I definitely suggest you making time, going out of your way, look up their schedule, find out where they at, and go have dinner there one night. They do really, really awesome stuff. I think it's probably the best food truck on the planet. I haven't had every food truck on the planet, but I've had a lot of food trucks, and it's the best one I've ever had. So, as far as I'm concerned, it is the best food truck on the planet, and you can find it in the Pittsburgh area, typically at a brewery. I know they're down at Dancing Gnome a lot. I know they're at Grist House, 11th Hour. Yeah, look them up. Go try it. You will not be disappointed. I promise you, their food is fucking legit. And yeah, you got to eat it. You got to see this. Back to talking about movies and TV. So, after years and years and years of saying, I've never watched an episode of Game of Thrones, I'm too busy, blah, 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 blah. I have finally made time, or I should say, Stacy has, convinced me to make time to start watching Game of Thrones. In the past couple weeks, I have watched the first 5 seasons, and I am 4 episodes into season 6. I'm really trying to catch up, and if it is not obvious in the fact that I've plowed through 5 seasons in, 14 days, the fact that I enjoy it, I will state for the record, I enjoy it. I totally get it. I understand why people have been obsessed with this show for years. And yeah, I'm happy to be catching up. I think it's really good. I have some qualms with it, but I mean, that's anything in life, right? You're not going to, nothing's perfect. And if you expect everything to be perfect and go your way, you're an idiot. Don't live like that. Learn to accept things that maybe you don't necessarily agree with or jive with, because the world doesn't revolve around you. And yeah, if anything, Game of Thrones should teach you that, because, things don't really seem to be working out for anybody in that show as far as I'm concerned. We'll see where it goes. Like I said, I'm only into season 6. No fucking spoilers, all right? Get out of here with that. And but yeah, if you've never seen Game of Thrones and you're on the fence, I suggest it. I enjoy it. But you know what I mean? I'm into mystical shit. I'm into dragons. I'm into demons. I'm into fucking zombie type things. I'm into swords. I'm into fire. Hey, maybe I'm into boobs a little bit too. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a little boob and a little dude butt, right? It's the human body. It's cool. Anyways, this is getting weird. Game of Thrones, check it out. You gotta see it if you haven't. And last but not least, you gotta hear this. So, 2019 and me, music has been a little bit slow. I just haven't really taken a whole lot of time to listen to a whole lot of music that has come out this year. But there's been some stuff that's crossed my path that I've been really into. And in the past few weeks, there's a indie rock band called the Silver Sun Pickups. Maybe some of you are familiar with them. They've been around for a bit. They've released a couple new songs for an album they're getting ready to put out next month. And I really like both of these tracks a whole hell of a lot. They've always been really interesting in terms of their song structures and the way that they put pieces of music together for being like a very, just radio friendly indie rock band, like nothing really too abrasive or outside of the box. They still managed to put together these songs that are they're really unique, and there's nobody else that really sounds like them. And I think that's why I've always kind of had my attention on Silver Sun Pickups. And this new material that they're putting out is like definitely the most interesting stuff I've ever heard them do. And I'm really excited to hear the full album. So yeah, if you have, Spotify or YouTube access or whatever, definitely check out those 2 tracks they've put out. And if you've never given them a shot, I would definitely check them out if you're an indie rock fan. I think they're a really cool band, and I don't hear enough people talking about them. So yeah, Silver Sun Pickups. You got to hear it. Check it out. And that's all. That's it for the intro. It's been a while since I've done one of these big, long intros, but I know there's going to be a lot of people here today for today's guests. So hopefully some of you newbies got something out of that. I don't fucking know, but if you've skipped ahead of all of this just to get into this conversation, you're here. We did it. So this week on the show, I have my friends in Chip and the Charge Ups on the show. They're a rock band, rock and roll, power pop, whatever you want to call it. Just good, fun, clean rock. And they're here today to talk about the band and talk about the scene, their experience playing in the band from 2 totally different generations. As I have Chip and Melina on. They are father-daughter combo. They both play in this band together. And it's a lot of cool conversation just talking about, the dynamics of being in a band in 2019 from the perspective of, an adult and basically a teenager, which is a cool and unique perspective. Am I rambling? I might be rambling. How about let's get into the conversation. I think we should probably just do that. Let's do that. What do you say? You want to hear it? You want to hear it? Make some noise! I don't know if making some noise is a typical call to action for a podcast, but I'm not your typical podcast, I guess. I don't know. Man, I am rambling. I need somebody to just start throwing things at me when I ramble. Throw something at your phone if I'm rambling. Am I rambling? Throw something don't throw your phone. Just throw okay. I'm done. I'm just kidding. All right, let's do it. Let's get into my conversation this week with my friends Chip and the Charge Ups. Sit back, relax, and let's start the motherfucking beat! Audio's going, and we are going. Here we are. Happy Sunday. How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Solid. 2/4 of Chip and the Charge Ups in the building. Introduce yourselves to the world.
Hey, I'm Chip from Chip and the Charge Ups.
I'm Melina from Chip and the Charge Ups.
Cool. Really happy to have you both here. For those of the people in the world that don't know who you are, as I mentioned, a 4-piece rock band, power pop, a la Ramones, Weezer, what's some other good examples there?
Green Day, The Interrupters.
Cheap Trick.
There you go.
Sure. All that kind of stuff. It's really cool. A lot of fun. Very positive, fun rock. Like you have your outfits and all of that stuff. Like it's a thing. And that's something that I really like about what your band is doing. It's more than just like some people on a stage playing some songs. It's like, it's a fucking show. Sorry, can I swear? I'm sorry.
You can.
You have the permission.
Okay, yeah. I apologize because I know that the two of you are related.
Correct.
Yes. So I don't want to be, I have kind of a potty mouth. I'll try to keep it in check.
Oh, it's all good, man.
Okay, cool. Fuck it. So Chip and the Charge Up started in 2018, if I'm correct, right? So let's talk about the origins of the band and how that all got started and why you wanted to do this, fun, larger than life sort of rock and roll band.
Mm-hmm. Well, Chip and the Charge Ups kind of originated over a 2-year period when I was kind of just my musical involvement was just kind of writing at home and then recording. So before I knew it, I had a bunch of songs written, a bunch of songs recorded, and the time was right to put together a lineup to go perform those songs live.
So when you're talking about writing these songs, is that like you kind of putting together all the instrumentation or just kind of like the melodies and the lyrics?
No, pretty much all the instrumentation. I did have players play drums on some songs based on
Studio
some songs.
people.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, I did some drum programming myself as well.
Yeah.
So
Living in the future, right? Cool. So you had this group of songs, and then you're like, well, let's get a band together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it started, and then just put a couple of the pieces of the puzzle together. And actually, you mentioned we're related, but yet Melina was the last one to join the band.
Okay.
Because we didn't set out to be, this father-daughter duo. But it, would like interview and audition bass players, and usually they would flake out, and that would come in two ways. One is that either show up for an audition unprepared and it would be a very short audition, or they just wouldn't show up at all, and they're like, it's I remember one dude being like, oh, it's Tuesday already. It's like, yeah,
that's not a good sign.
It's Tuesday already, and we are not rescheduling. Like, if you can't keep your days of the week. So every time we had one of those instances occurred, Melina's been playing bass for a few years, and it was just like, hey, Melina, you want to come down and sit in with us? And then she'd come down, and the first time she'd know 2 songs, and then would have a recurring event, and then the next time it'd be 4 songs, and then 6 songs, and then before you know it, she had an entire set that she nailed, not only bass playing, but singing harmony vocals on. And by the time we got to our first gig, we realized, well, this is like perfect. Like, what were we thinking? Not setting out to do this.
Yeah.
And it just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, sometimes like what you're looking for is like, right there under your nose. You don't even realize it.
That is a perfect way to describe it, because that was literally how it was. I mean,
yeah, it could be like really a nightmare dealing with people. And I know that like you've been playing in bands for long enough to know completely what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So it really stinks. But that's the other thing that's like the problem with, as like, you get a little bit older and people are either like in bands solid, and those people that aren't in bands are just like the people that nobody wants to be in a band with.
Right.
So you kind of have to like, it can be really, really hard to find people as you like in like an older thing that have their stuff together that can also play. But the cool thing about the lineup of the band now is that like you're making music that speaks to, I think, multi-generations of people, and you have multi-generations of people in the band as well. So it's a really cool way to put all of that together. Like, what we're doing is something for everybody.
Yeah, that's been kind of the surprise. It's just like we see people from 7 to 70s at our shows, and they're all enjoying it. It's like, the kids are like super excited and think we're rock stars, and then the people who are 70 are like, man, you guys are so good. And it's just like, wow, how does that happen? You think of, especially in music today, when everything is subgenre. You can't just have metal. You got to have grindcore and metalcore and deathcore and there's probably 100 subgenres of that, like melodic deathcore and
sure. I mean, you have like got punk and pop punk, and I mean, then like even like power pop to some degree is kind of like it's like a weird fusion of those two. It's like we don't want to be punk, but we don't want to be rock. So it's like, okay, we're just making up stuff nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. So that, I think that's been kind of cool. And when we talked about bands that we're kind of in the wheelhouse of, we covered a lot of generations, talking from the Ramones to Green Day to Interrupters, just those 3 bands, they span what, 40 years or so. So, I think the people when they listen to us will find something they're already familiar with and go with it. Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's really cool too is, having all of the people that you have in the band. I'm sure there's a lot of cool influence that, Melina is able to bring in that you might be completely over your radar as like, like, I don't even know who this is. You know what I mean? Does that happen?
Well, I think it kind of happens both ways, surprisingly. Cause like, for example, a couple bands that we're both into, we introduced each other to. So like she's like, oh, there's this new artist, Youngblood. Saw him at Warped Tour, got to check him out. And I'm like, okay, checked him out, loved him. And then I came across Swimmers, and I'm like, oh, we got to, I'm buying tickets to the Swimmers concert. I love them, and you're coming with me. And she's like, oh, okay. And then now she loves them. So it's so we kind of do, we kind of do introduce each other to new artists all the time. So
yeah, that's super crucial, and I think it's really cool that the two of you have that relationship, and that you're able to like, share these mutual interests in like a wide variety of like healthy and fun, productive, creative ways.
Yeah, you always think, father and kid, or parent and kid. It's like, you kids today, you don't know anything about good music. You should listen to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and stuff that I grew up on. All this stuff is noise today. So I try not to be like that. Interesting note on that. Beatles are one of her favorite bands.
That's true.
And I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. I've like come into appreciating the Beatles as I've gotten a little bit older, just in terms of like what they were able to do in the time that they did it, and also I remember at work, my boss was like, we had the Beatles discography, like original vinyl box set thing that we got in, and we were trying to clean it up to sell it. So we had to play all of the records and make sure that they were all good. So there was like a good 2 days where I listened to every single Beatles song.
Wow.
And I never really realized how many Beatles songs I knew until you listen to them all like that. Like, oh yeah. Like, how many songs did they like, how many popular songs did they write? Like, oh yeah, almost all of them. And every single one of them is pretty much like, there's not many Beatles songs that I've never heard at one point in time in my life.
Yeah.
Through just like movies and the radio and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like your brain's like this file cabinet, and every time you hear a song, that song gets filed away, and then you may not hear that song again, and then but something will bring it up in your life again, and you'll be like, yeah, that's in my file cabinet.
Yeah, so. It's nuts. Like a Lisa Loeb song will be on the radio, and I still remember all the words to it from when I was a kid. It's like, how do I like? Why I'm like tapping my finger, it's like I haven't thought about this at all. Meanwhile, I can't remember half of the things that I learned in high school about exactly. I think that's why I think they should teach everything in song.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea.
Revolutionary moment in education right there. I mean,
yeah. So with Chip and the Charge Ups and being a band in 2019, marketing, it's a lot different than 2009 or 1999 or even 1989, all this stuff that we grew up listening to music and seeing the way bands interacted with the public. Nowadays it's a lot different in the way bands interact with the public, and I know one thing that I saw that you guys are doing is you're utilizing Patreon with Chip and the Charge Ups. Let's talk about that a little bit, because out of all of the people I've had on the show, not many of them seem to utilize that service. So I'd be really curious to see what that's been like for you.
Sure. We utilize Patreon as a way for our super fans to get things that the general public can't get. You mentioned like 2019. Anyone can go on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Music and listen to almost any song ever released. And it's just kind of like, there's nothing special about that anymore. It's just like, I'm looking at your records over there. And at one time when those records came out, it was like you had something that not everyone had. And
oh yeah, like you'd like get your friends to all come over to listen to the record. Now it's just like sending people Spotify links that maybe they'll open.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like when music was strictly for digital or physical media, it's like you had something special, you had something exclusive, and if like I remember, a friend and I on the release day for an album we were both waiting for, and we raced over to the shelf, and there was one cassette left on the shelf of that new release, and whoever got there first was going to get it, and whoever did not get there was going to be out of luck. They were going to, I mean, that was almost a friendship ending moment for us. But now it's like there's no race to the shelf. It's just like, oh, you got it on release day. Everyone got it on release day. It's like nothing special. So I think that, Patreon enables us to say, yeah, all of our regular releases, anyone in the public can get it, any song at any time that it's available. With Patreon, it's like, okay, we're going to release these songs to you guys first. And actually, we're going to start working on now a Patreon exclusive acoustic album where it's like, you know what, we're not even going to release this. This won't be on Spotify. This won't be on Apple Music. It won't be anywhere except to our Patreon backers. And, what we try to do is make it like special for them. It's like, you guys support us. We want to give you something that the rest of the world isn't going to get. We want you to be in like this inner circle. Of course we want as many fans as possible, but the people who are really passionate about us, we appreciate them, and we just want them to have something that they can say, this is our like thing that we can kind of nurture and protect and not have to share with the world.
Yeah.
So,
and the other thing that's cool about it too is in 2019 being a band or a brand, you have a lot of things to keep up with, multiple social media accounts and running a website and all of these things. I think the thing that's really cool about Patreon is it gives you an easy place to focus without all of the outside noise from everything else on like focus on who's actually listening to your stuff, the type of people, where they are, who they are. You get to connect with them without, the outside's distractions of like Facebook and Instagram, where like there's a lot of counterproductive things when you're trying to utilize those services to promote yourself.
Right.
But you still have to use Facebook and Instagram and all that. So how has that transition been for, you getting into social media? We didn't grow up around social media, the two of us. So, whereas Melina, you are coming up in this era, so it's like very normal for you. And for me and Chip, it's like, it's still weird for me. It's always going to be weird because, like I didn't, like when I graduated high school, MySpace was just becoming a thing. I didn't grow up around this. So being in a band, and that was never part of it for me. And like, I'm still trying to figure it out. How has it been for you?
I think it's been mostly pretty natural. I mean, things are changing all the time. And, for example, like now Facebook and Instagram stories, that's like a new thing. It's like, how can we master that? Because now instead of scrolling, people are just kind of watching stories go by. So, it's like something that, you can never really say, I'm good with social media and I'm covered for the next 20 years.
As soon as
it's
you
like
figure
you always got to learn more.
As soon as you figure it out, it's like the next thing.
Yep.
Yeah. It's, but it's fun though. It's really cool being able to connect with people in that way. I mean, there's the negative parts of it that we talked about where like the value of the music itself is kind of devalued in a sense, but also being able to like with one click of a button have your album be available to literally anybody in the world.
Yes.
Is awesome. But the trick is getting them to know about it. Like how do you click with those people?
Yeah.
So the cool thing about Chip and the Charge Ups, again, we mentioned about how this is like music for everybody. You have a very accessible product, and I hate calling it a product, but you know what I mean? Like, so I imagine it's probably a lot easier for you to take advantage of marketing with having such a like universal image versus like being like this heavy metal band that's all like where you might like frighten people, do you come across any like pushback with what you're doing, like any like things that like you've struggled with in terms of like getting the band name out there and getting people like on board with what you're doing?
I don't know, because usually, well, I shouldn't say usually, because social media can be a cesspool of negative people. But, usually if people have something unkind to say, they'll say nice things to your face and say the bad things behind your back. So the reaction has been very positive, but I think that in terms of, seeing us as a product and, social media and things like that, we're not on stage today yet. We're wearing our gold ties and our black shirts. And that's, we want to, if someone is just scrolling through and they see Start the Beat with Sikes and they see that thumbnail, that YouTube thumbnail of two people with pinkish hair and the ties, they're gonna be like, oh, there's Chip and the Charge Ups, and maybe they keep scrolling, and then there's something of ours, and they see the gold ties, and then they see this keep scrolling, oh, the gold ties again. So it is a way to kind of stand out and kind of try to work with that immensely short attention span that people have.
Absolutely.
It's just kind of like, with if you're just going to be, like for example, the last band I was in kind of, look typical, long hair, black shirts, snarls on their faces. Okay. That's not going to stand out as you're scrolling through, but, thinking about the attention span that people have on social media, and you have a nanosecond to kind of implant your brand or your image in their brain. I mean, I think what we try to do is take advantage of that nanosecond.
Yeah, then that's really forward thinking in our current attention span climate.
I mean, how much shorter can our attention spans get than
this?
Yeah,
that's the thing that's like, I've had this thought a lot about being a musician in this attention span climate and how complicated it is, because to like writing songs with the sense of like you need to get people's attention in that like 5 to 10 seconds. Like, how do you fully get your point across in 5 to 10 seconds so people will listen to the other 2 minutes of the song? That's really tough.
It is. I mean, so many older songwriting books talk about getting your hook in the first 1 minute, but geez, do we even have a minute nowadays? It's just like to be a music fan and you follow multiple bands, just your feed in a day can be more music than you'd have a chance to listen to in a week or a month. So it is kind of difficult. And, I think in terms of social media, that's where sharing comes into play, where your fans, I think, play a big role. And, we always tremendously appreciate any shares that we get of our music because, you see it once, you're like, I'll check it out later. See it twice, check it out later. But if, this person shared it and this person shared it and this person shared it, people start thinking, maybe I ought to check this out now. So
yeah, I don't think a lot of people that aren't artists or musicians in some aspect, they don't understand how beneficial something as simple as them like liking it and commenting on it is, even if it's just like a little thumbs up.
Yep.
Because it's like, it may seem like that's like kind of like a very worthless thing for them. Like, they're not contributing a lot, but they don't understand that once they interact with it, that automatically pings to everybody they're friends with. Like, oh, your friend interacted with this thing and you have X number of mutual acquaintances, and then that gets pinged out to them, and it really like...
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, it's like you see posts and things like that. They're either going to have like 1 to 3 likes or like 30 and up, because it's like if it starts getting 5 likes, it's going to get a bunch more because the social media sites will think, oh, well, this is relevant, good stuff, so we're going to show it to more people because they want people on their sites, on their apps for as long as possible. So they rely on that user input to decide what to show everyone.
Yeah. It's fun, right?
It's a challenge, but I mean, I love challenges, so I find challenges fun. How
much time do you find in marketing versus songwriting? How do you balance that?
Oh man, that is a struggle. I mean, that is definitely a struggle. I treat Chip and the Charge Ups as my full-time job. I spend 50 hours a week doing stuff, and we just released our new album. And leading up to that, doing the PR for that, I find myself at the end of the week, and I'm like, did I even strum a guitar or sing a note this week, or did I just send emails? So yeah, it is a struggle. One thing though about how I've kind of changed as a songwriter though is that I find myself binge songwriting, where it's just like, I'll get inspired and I'll go a week, a 2-week period, a 3-week period, and then crank out a bunch of songs, and then I'm like, okay, yeah, gotta send those emails now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I find myself being like if I have a bunch of food on the plate, I always like finish one thing then move on to the next. I'm not like a nibble on this, nibble on that. Or if I have like a task in the house, I got to finish that task, and that's very much how I am with songwriting and marketing and stuff like that. If I'm working on an album, I'm like, I'm not doing anything else. I just want to do this.
Yes.
But I can never just like write a song and then take a step away and do something else and then put like I don't understand. There's like a lot of artists that release just singles and that's all they do, and that blows my mind because I don't know if it's me coming from that era of the album, and I still very much live in that. Like I want to put out a release that's like a full album. I don't want to just release singles. But again, that attention span thing, you could probably get a lot more eyeballs on you if the same amount of attention that the single gets is what the full album's going to get. Like people might only listen to 1 or 2 songs from a full release. So it's like why not just split that up into 10 releases or however many songs it is. I saw that, on your EPK, you have, there's like 2 EPs, the Flow of the Current part 1 and 2.
Correct. Yes.
Now, is that the new release that you just put out?
Yep. Part 2. We just
came
out with that
cool.
April 5th. Yep.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
You had a release show. Is that the Moose?
At the Smiling Moose. Yep.
Cool. How'd that go?
Went really well. That was a blast.
Yeah. So how's everything been, post release?
Well, we're still kind of within
still fresh, right?
In that period.
It's been about a week, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's been good. The feedback has been fantastic, and now it's just kind of like a shift for us. It's kind of like so much getting to release day, and now the attention is turning to, all right, now the next step in the process is to get on the road, play out of town, hit some other states and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of like this push this boulder. Now it's time to push this boulder. Now it's time to push this boulder.
It's never like, oh, we have the show and then, oh, we can finally relax. It's like, okay, we had this show and now we have to do something bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just, we don't ever have any like downtime.
True.
Yeah, that's kind of the way it goes. Like you don't want the downtime. It's like as much as you do want it, as soon as you have it, you're like, why am I not playing?
Yeah.
With Melina, with you now, prior to Chip and the Charge Ups, had you played in any like bands?
I've had a couple like little bands with a couple friends, but never anything like where we would play like big shows like a Smiling Moose.
Cool. So
you did some solo acoustic stuff though.
Yeah, I did have some solo acoustic shows that I set up myself where I would play. I brought in like 3 other solo acoustic acts, but I'm not ever in a like big rock band.
Yeah. So now you play bass in Chip and the Charge Ups, but you mentioned like doing like solo acoustic guitar and stuff like that.
Yes.
So you play multiple instruments.
Yes.
Do you play anything else besides those 2?
I also play viola.
Cool. That's exciting. You got to work some of that in. That'd be sick.
Yeah. I actually found a violin cheap at a yard sale once, it was a flea market. No. A thrift store.
Whatever.
I was like, cool, man. I'll learn it. We could shock people. I'll play violin. You play viola. Holy crap, that's hard to play.
Yeah.
She's trying to teach me how to hold a bow, and I'm like, I can't even hold the bow right. Like a guitar pick's so much easier. So, but I'd love for her. She's a really, really super talented violist, and I'd love to work that in the show. I think that'd be pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think it would work out really well, especially with the whole like larger than life thing. Now, kind of moving into that part of the conversation, live performances and production. I find that with my project that I do, Sikes and the New Violence, its production's a huge thing. I have like
I saw like video screens.
Yeah, video screens, outfit changes during the set, gimmicks in between songs. It's almost kind of like a stage play of sorts. And I love stage production. But the problem that I find is that it can be really limiting because we're still operating on a very like do-it-yourself thing. And there's only so many venues that can accommodate what we want to do to really get the point across. Have you ever come across that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for example, like at our release show, and we had some ideas that just needed to be adapted a little bit. Like our drummer had these like candlestick looking light things made that we had these flame simulated light bulbs on, and we're like, our plan was to like hide them in the dark parts of the stage and have our stage hand bring them out for our acoustic subset. And then we got them there and we're like, yeah, these
Can't
are
fit them anywhere.
If they're on the stage, they are on the stage. It's like there's nowhere to move them. So that was one thing. We had an idea of us coming out from behind a curtain on the one side of the Smiling Moose stage, and we couldn't kind of get that to fit. And so yeah, it's tough when your ideas are bigger than the infrastructure to support them, but that's something to aspire to.
Yeah, I mean, compromise is a big part of life in general, and definitely being in a band, you got to be able to work around it. I always say that what defines your character is like how you handle situations when things don't go your way. Like, do you like persevere and find a way to still make it work, or do you just like freak out?
Right.
With really have this interesting conversation. I've had it with people before about like, what bands like Chip and the Charge Ups or Sikes and the New Violence do. Like, how do we start out? When we have this larger than life sort of thing, but we only have like those limited resources, and just I don't know, finding ways to just make it work. It's always interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where you can't let it bring you down and think, oh, we can't do anything. You just kind of got to learn what things, what boundaries you have to work around, and how close you can get to those boundaries and still do what you want to do.
Yeah. So now, like, moving forward, I know that you have your next show is what, May 26th?
22nd, May
22nd.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Plug it.
That we are going to be opening for Nita Strauss. Nita Strauss, for those who don't know, is Alice Cooper's female virtuoso guitar player and also a descendant of Johann Strauss, the classical composer. So yeah, that should be a great show. Should be packed based on our ticket sales. We're usually we're well ahead of where we usually are this far in advance. So I'm expecting a sellout crowd at Hard Rock Cafe.
Cool. Now, is there any other stuff, any other gigs lined up for you guys?
Yeah, we'll be doing Rock for Life concert series, their Gigaroo show. That's in July. We're doing the Suicide Rebellion benefit July 19th. We're doing an acoustic show at a relatively new venue that's experimenting with live music that's called The Landing. I think that's July 16th. I think it might be. Yeah, I think it's a Tuesday. We're playing with the Borstal Boys out for a big day-long thing they're doing at Peter B's in Sarver. So yeah, July is going to really start getting busy for us, and again, hoping to get some out-of-state dates as well.
Yeah. Now, with connecting with bands out of state, what is your typical tactic? Are you somebody that you try to reach out to bands? Do you prefer reaching out to venues and trying to set up your own show? What is your plan of attack?
Usually knowing somebody that knows somebody. Because there are what we've encountered is that there's a lot of challenges with introducing yourself to a new person and saying, hey, we're looking to come to your state and play. And, venues are like, yeah, why would I do that when I could get a band that could bring in more people, or a band saying, well, we could get another local to open up for us and they could bring their aunts and uncles and parents and things like that. So, and even on the professional end, in terms of promoters and so forth, there have been people on the professional end that have said, hey, when you're ready to tour, get in contact with me, I can help you out. And then it's like, hey, we're ready to tour. Remember you said you can help me out? And they're like, well, I don't know how to get my head wrapped around what you want to do. And it's like, well, you said you could help out. So, where we seem to be making progress is, finding friends that have friends that, can, you have that intermediary that can speak to both parties, whether it be to another band, to a venue, or a promoter or someone like that can kind of make that connection.
Yeah, I think the best thing to do if you are a musician and you're playing a show, talk to the other bands that are playing. Be a friend to people and network. It blows my mind how many times I play shows with bands that just stay in the corner. They don't hang out with anybody. They come late, they leave, they come late, they leave early.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you even here? I don't get it. If you don't want to like be a part of the scene and be friendly with people.
Exactly.
I think that's like a big thing is just like interacting with people, because I was in Florida and we were just walking around and there was a guy playing acoustic guitar. So I stopped and I listened to him and I started talking to him afterwards, and like we're like, yeah, if you ever want to trade gigs or anything. And he said that he would be interested. So it's just that easy as just like talking to someone.
And it turned out like he had 34,000 followers on
yeah.
Facebook or whatever. And you didn't know that when talking.
Like you just really just kind of have to talk to people, and talking to them face to face makes it like so much more personal, I think.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, it's like most of us all want the same thing, and there's strength in numbers. So if you're able to connect with each other, you can make something really great happen. It just blows my mind that people don't utilize that more.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think people are starting to, though. You might be able to speak on this since you've been playing in bands for a while. Does it feel like we're like one of like the most positive times, at least in Pittsburgh, in terms of music right now?
Absolutely.
It's insane.
It really is. I mean, seeing where we were just, I don't know, 2013.
Yeah.
I mean, I've kind of been playing regularly since 2005 in the Pittsburgh scene. And, 2006, 2007, they were 2008, 2009, just such dark times. It's just like, I know there's some venues that people miss, but thinking about being in those venues, either as a fan or as a performer in those days, it was just like, there's like 8 people here, man. This is a stacked lineup of bands, and there's 8 people here. And then now, with the festivals, I kind of started with Rant and then the Strip District Music Festival, which I think we played back to back with Greywalker.
Yeah.
In 15 or 16. That's when things started really like taking off. Like, whoa, we can like take the music scene to the mainstream, and the mainstream will actually show up. And then, that's kind of just snowballed, where it's just like, there's so much excitement about the music scene, not just from the musicians, but from the fans, from people like yourself that do, podcasts, internet radio shows, webzines, things like that. The radio stations. It's like, you just feel like, could I wake up and suddenly this disappear, and then we're back in 2006 again, it really honestly concerns me. Like, this is so good compared to how it used to be. Could this all like crumble down overnight and then be left with nothing, because this was not always like this?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, sure, it could, but I don't think it will. I think that something that, what with bands like such as yourselves are doing is, I think people that are in the entertainment business are starting to realize that they need to put together events for the people that come out to them. And I think in those dark times, a lot of bands were just doing shows for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why nobody was coming out, because there was no reason for them to be there. But now there's so many events that really cater to the public, and we're giving people a reason to come out. And that's why you're seeing so many more people out at events.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Yeah, and people draw people, it's kind of like you can have the same bands play the same bill, but it's almost like kind of like the same thing I was talking about with, 1 to 3 comments or 30 plus. It's like people like to go where people are because it's kind of like that gives it validity, that, that creates a vibe like, hey, this can be an exciting thing to be at. And that's what we're seeing. The numbers are showing up at venues, and it's just, just been a positive thing that's building on itself.
And I'm also seeing a lot more bands playing with bands that don't like mixed variety shows. And I think that that's helping a lot too,
Mhm.
where it's not like, oh, this is a lineup of all punk rock bands,
Yeah.
or this is a lineup of all, hip hop people. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, those shows still happen, but there's a lot of really cool mixed bills, and it just brings all of these people together.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we like to do as well. For our shows, we like to we like to have it start with an acoustic act, and we like to curate our shows so the intensity builds. It isn't just a random smattering of bands on a bill. It's like let's structure it so that the energy builds just the way a movie builds, from like starting very softly to a climactic ending. So we like to bring on singer-songwriters to start our shows, and then a more rocking band, and then we end the night. So yeah, and Pittsburgh has such a great singer-songwriter community too. So if we can kind of cross-pollinate with them, we think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I think that it's really awesome that you have that foresight whenever you're putting together events, and you're taking the time to think about what's going to make this event better for everybody there and entertaining, and just make it flow well, instead of just like, well, we're just going to play a show for no reason, like we're just doing it.
Exactly. And it's kind of like even the most avid rock fans, you put 4 or 5 bands on a bill that are loud and punishing, their ears are going to get desensitized. It's going to kind of like dilute the effect over time. So, we like to kind of mix it up.
Mm-hmm. With the band and back to promotion and all that stuff, music videos and things like that. How's that stuff been? You doing anything?
Yeah, we love our music videos. So we have a Green Day Poison mashup that we just kind of put everything into, that we released last summer. And basically we not only mashed up the songs, but we thought, what if we could mash up the videos as well, recreate the videos, mash them up, but have them tell a storyline between the 2 songs that wasn't told in the original 2 songs. So we had a blast during doing that, and that that's like one of, I think, our artistic crown jewels to say that we did this. I mean, we're just so proud of that, and Melina killed it as the lead actress. So that was a fun one we did, and we have a regular music video for I hope I never say that out loud. And then another thing we've done a little bit more of actually is lyric videos. And we think lyrics are important, so we try to be creative, poetic with our lyrics. We've been releasing lyric videos, and we have another one coming out very soon we just released one for Sunshine Take Me Away. We have another one that's called By the Tracks that we're very excited about too, because it's not only a lyric video, but there's a lot of imagery that kind of tells the story. And one thing I like to do with songwriting is take the 4 minutes of a song and tell a story of years in that, and not lose anything in that condensation. And I think I think we did that with the song, but now we also are really happy with how the lyric video turned out, and we're excited to see how people react to that.
That's super cool. Where can people watch the music videos?
Our YouTube channel, which if they just search Chip and the Charge Ups on YouTube, they can find. Or I always like to direct people to our website, thechargeups.com, and from there they can link to our YouTube channel, our Facebook, our Instagram, Snapchat, Patreon, the social media of their choice.
The whole works.
Yeah,
whatever you like. It's like, man, it's so hard. I mean, it's not hard navigating all of that stuff. It's just, I wish that we could just have a website.
Yeah, I mean, it is a decision. It's like, where do you spend your time? And so far the answer is you spend it everywhere. You just there are Instagram people, there are Facebook people, there are Snapchat people, there are some that do all three, some that do just one or two. So yeah, I mean, it's so far the answer seems to be just put it everywhere. Get yourself everywhere.
Is what do you prefer? What are your two personal favorites?
Well, aside from Patreon, which we kind of already talked about the benefits, and that's kind of for a small group. And Melina, you can chime in on your favorite. I like Facebook because you can share full length videos. It seems like you can have more extended conversations. I love the interaction. It's easier to share someone else. It's easier for people to share your posts and things like that. So I kind of tend to prefer and you can put events there. So I kind of feel that Facebook is more, multifunctional, but what's your thought?
I prefer the structure of Facebook. Like you said, I like how you can just have the link to a video and the video will post on Facebook and you can share posts easier. But I prefer the demographic of Instagram because that's where more people in my generation are. So I don't have too many of my friends who are on Facebook, but every single person that I know is on Instagram. So that's where I also tend to go towards Instagram.
That makes sense. With Instagram and the band, do you find hashtags? Is that something that you pay attention to? Do you do that? You find that working out?
I would like to take a class on, how to leverage hashtags. But yeah, it's just definitely the more hashtags, the more relevant hashtags you use, the more interaction you seem to get, the more followers you seem to get. So I definitely think we should delve more into that.
Yeah. And Melina, with kids in, people in your generation, how do they interact with the artists that they like? What do you notice the trends are? Do they just wait for them to update stories? Do they really try to find music on Instagram, or is it more just lifestyles?
Yeah, I think it just kind of varies from person to person because for me, since I'm a musician, I know the importance of music and I seek out music, but for people who don't try to do that, it's different, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the trick, and I think that's something that all of us are trying to figure out, to how to turn off the musician brain and think about the way that people that aren't musicians, how they interact with music and why they interact with music.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time it seems I just happened to hear a song on the radio, or there was a song on a show I was watching, or it just happens to come across them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's how do we accidentally get music in front of people?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a everlasting and ongoing challenge. It just seems like you were saying before, it's so easy to distribute music, but that also makes it so much more competitive with everyone else who's distributing music at the same time.
Well, sure. Well, I mean, what is Chip and the Charge Ups doing to maybe get their music into other avenues? Are you doing anything to maybe TV commercials, movies? Are you trying to do any of that? Have you given that any thought?
We have kind of dipped our toe in the water of that a bit. I did sign a very small TV film deal with a music library. Nothing major has come out of that yet. We did get the Pittsburgh Penguins to license one of our songs to use on their post-game show. So yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just another outlet out there. And one thing that I just like to do is things like that. This, PR. It's just kind of you have your loyal followers. So I'm a follower of your show, and if I can utilize that to introduce myself to your other followers, then that can only help,
Yeah.
because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are like, I never heard of Chip and the Charge Ups, but
Yeah.
I am hearing of it now because I'm a Sikes fan. So
Yeah, it's wild. That's like, I mean, the main reason I even started doing this show was honestly just to connect with other people and just feeling so disconnected from the scene. I started doing this in 2014, so that was like right when at the tail end of like me just being fed up with how miserable everything kind of was in the
Mhm.
local music scene,
Mhm.
But I knew all of these different people from doing Sikes and Grey Walker and other bands I'd been in like all these scattered areas of the local scene. I'm like,
Mhm.
I want these people to know about each other.
Mhm.
How can I do this?
Mhm.
I guess I'll start a podcast, So it's like my little contribution
Mhm.
to the world.
Mhm. Well, the cool thing is you have staying power. I mean, you've been doing this 5 years now. Most people, I think, would try something and then, see that it does take work to be able to do this week in and week out. It's not something, passion gets you started, but work has to be involved for you to kind of keep things going. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So now let's get into the hard questions.
Oh
The
boy,
tough stuff.
you didn't tell us there were going to be hard questions.
The
You didn't
tough
tell us.
stuff. This is the stuff people want to know about. All right. So you just finished playing a show. You're all packed up. Post show eats. Where do you go?
Eaton Park.
Place for smiles.
That has been our go-to so far.
Cool. So what about Eaton Park over the other options? What makes Eaton Park the place for you?
We'll probably have two different answers, so you can go
I
first.
don't know. That's just the place we go. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those, pick your appetizer things where you can get multiple appetizers.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like you don't want a full meal, you don't want to eat like a plate of spaghetti or something. You want something greasy after a show.
So what appetizers do
So-
you go for?
So I like the fried ravioli,
Oh, yeah.
the macaroni and cheese bites,
Okay.
and what did I get last time? I got
Pretzels.
the pretzels with the beer batter dip or something like that.
Sure.
So yeah, decadent, man, decadent.
What about you?
The appetizers that I usually get is the fried zucchini, the mac and cheese bites, and the mozzarella sticks.
Heck yeah. I love the breaded zucchini. That's my jam.
Yeah, like
That's-
can you go wrong with that?
They give you so much too. It's almost
Oh,
yeah.
too much.
yeah,
It's like intimidating.
yeah, and it comes with those like the kettle cooked chips too.
Oh,
That
yeah.
you don't even have to pick those; those are just given to you by default. So
Yeah. I like Eaton Park. I'll take Eaton Park over Denny's any day of the week.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of Denny's. I don't know why, but recently I've really been like rallying against Denny's on the podcast. And I know no, if you like Denny's, I want everybody to like what they like, but I'm definitely a fan of Eaton Park.
Oh yeah,
And I'll go Permanis over that.
oh yeah.
Just because, I mean, I live so close to the Strip District one, and that thing's open 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah. Now, outside of playing music and going to Eaton Park, what else do you enjoy doing together? Any other hobbies?
We have hobbies. What do hobbies together? I mean, concerts. We're always going to
Yeah, that's
concerts
true. That's
together.
true.
But he said outside of music. But is there
Yeah,
outside of
that's
music?
that's what anytime that anybody asks me, "Oh, what are your hobbies?" I say music, and they're like, "No, I mean like outside of music. What do you do when you're not playing music?" I play music. Like when I'm not playing Chip and the Charge Ups, I'll be like writing my own songs, playing acoustic guitar. I sing in the choirs, 2 choirs at my school. I play in the orchestra. So like everything that I do just revolves around music.
Yeah, it's relatable. I mean, it's like I have a lot of different interests. I play in a couple bands. I do graphic design and video work and the podcast and all this stuff, but it all relates to music.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I'm doing video stuff, it's probably for my band or somebody else's band, or if I'm doing graphic design, it's probably
Mm-hmm.
a shirt for my band or somebody else's band.
Yeah.
Like it all ties into music. So I have the same exact problem.
I don't think it's a problem. I mean, I think that the more integrated you have all of your life, the better chance you'll be successful at it. It's just like if you're spending 2 hours a week, 3 hours a week on music, are you really going to be able to compete with the people who, are like taking voice lessons or guitar lessons and, working at it 40, 50, 60 hours a week? It's hard to. I mean, some people may be naturally talented, and I'm really jealous of those people.
Sure.
But, with all there is to kind of get your name out there as a musician, it's kind of like the more you can integrate into a single vision, I think the better chance you'll have of breaking through.
And I think, too, another thing that a lot of people always are like, how do you do it? Like, how do you find time to do it? And it's just like, I think you just, again, compromise and like sacrifice. I mean, the sacrifices I make are very minimal. Game of Thrones is that's a hot thing. It's a episode starting tonight. I think it's the last season ever. I never watched an episode of Game of Thrones in my life, and that's just one of the things where it's like, I don't watch a lot of TV or play video games at all and things like that.
Yep.
And it's like, somebody like asking me how I do so much that spends 12 hours a week playing video games is like, all that time that you spend doing that, I'm doing this. So, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like, I think a lot of people overlook how much time they do have and like the ways that they can utilize it to like do productive things if that's what they want to do.
Right. And social media is one of those culprits of eating up, can be one of those culprits of eating up your time. It's just like, I just want to spend, when I go on social media, I want to do it for targeted purposes and not just to scroll through, because time can disappear. And, it may not seem like a bunch of time in that instance or in a day, but if you start doing the math,
it adds up. It's crazy. I mean, there's been countless times when I go onto Facebook just because I want to like post a link to a show, and the thing right at the top of the feed has been like algorithmically strategically placed to get my attention. And I'm like, what? So and so said this, and then I get sucked into the comments, and then somebody said something dumb, and I'm like, who is that person? So I click on their page, and I'm trying to figure out who they are, and then all of a sudden it's been 10 minutes, and I'm like, wait, what was I doing? Oh yeah, I was supposed to post that show.
And already you're 10 minutes behind. That's like that notification thing. You can't just log into Facebook and just say, oh, I see that I have 9 notifications. I came here to do this, post this link instead. I'm not going to look at those notifications, because you're like, oh, what's going on? And it's
yeah. The FOMO, the fear of missing out, as they say. So if anybody out there in the internet has FOMO about chipping the charge ups, one more time, where can people find all of the stuff?
Our website, thechargeups.com, is the place you can link to for all of our social media sites, including our YouTube videos, our Patreon, our web store where they can buy our albums on CD, our merch, t-shirts, photos, stuff like that.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to plug before we wrap this up or say?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, kind of a couple of things coming up. The Anita Strauss show we talked about, May 22nd, probably in May. We don't have a release date on it yet, even though it is complete. Is our lyric video for our song "By the Tracks" that's coming up, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people who have a little bit of Chip and the Charge Ups catch up to do, which they can do by checking out Flow with the Current Part 1 or Part 2, our first 2 albums, which available any digital music site of choice, Amazon, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, etc. So
there's a lot, but they are available, and check them out. I want to thank you both for coming over.
Thanks so much for having us.
It was awesome to chat, and I don't know, we gotta figure out playing a show together and do something at some point in time.
Yes.
We'll make it happen.
Yep.
That'd be awesome.
That would be cool.
Big stage production over the top fiesta.
Yeah, we got to find a stage big enough for our big ideas and put them both together.
Yeah. Oh no. We'll make it happen. So thank you both for coming over, and that's it.
Awesome.
We're donezo. And that is all, folks. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Once again, huge thanks to Chip and Melina for coming by today. definitely be sure to check them out if you get a chance to see them live. They told you where you can find their music online. Give that a listen. And yeah, I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Sikes. Start the Beat 2019. Woo! Woo! Thanks for listening.